Here we are for the Central Virginia Direct Primary Care Show, of which there's only two of us. But this is the ninth one. I'm Dr. Ferrago. This is Dr. Anderson. You'll see the subtitles, and we'll put that on there. It's been a few weeks. Apologize for that. We were hoping to move past the coronavirus. We have not moved past that. But first, Dr. Anderson wants to share something in Consumer Reports. Really pretty cool. Hold that up.
Okay.
And go ahead and go.
Yeah, so it's they did a big article, a big spread on primary care and how it's changing the U.S. and it was really neat. They called us to ask about direct primary care, and so we got to be the feature practice for direct primary care. So it was just a really neat thing. And they gave me my free.
Why do you think the direct primary care is maybe the future of primary care?
So something that they wrote in there is just that they are able to, direct primary care is able to see patients so much more. Patients have so much more access, and in all the literature and data that's coming out, there's now several nationwide studies that have come out saying that people just go to the hospital less, the ER less, they're readmitted to the hospital less, they see specialists less. And so it's just really neat to be a part of that. But it all comes down to accessibility. So you can take care of and address an issue when it's this big versus it being this big.
Yes. Yes. So we're not bound by insurance. In fact, we don't care about insurance other than we try to help people lower things on cost. But insurance doesn't. They're not our boss. And so as direct primary care, you and I, we have something that other offices are being bonused, other family doctors, on indicators called quality metrics or quality indicators. And they've got to meet these things, all of them, everyone. I was going to say it's unproven, but that's not true. They're proven actually to not work, every single one, yet they still do it. And those things are such as they will ask you, smoking and things that we would do anyway, but are not relevant to that visit. The one indicator that's not going to be ever measured is time with patient. They cannot do that because they do not have the time with patient. They're in and out of that visit in 3 to 5, 7 minutes. And insurance doesn't want to know that information. They don't want to hand it to patients. But direct primary care, you and I, and now when I started, probably there was less than 100 in this country. Now there's thousands. And I've written 3 books on direct primary care. We spend 30 to 60 minutes. And then we also are answering emails personally, not our nurse. We are personally answering emails all day, texts all day, get on the phone all day. And we know every single patient. I actually had to go through my list for my email list, and just because of I do a newsletter, and I went through to see if, as people had left the practice to get them off there. And I knew every patient on that list. I can visualize and know every name. We take only 600 patients. Other offices, each doctor's 3,000 plus. And so people don't realize they're overwhelmed. So yeah, that's why DPC is interesting. That's why Consumer Reports came to you, Dr. Anderson, and your expanding practice. And so I think it's a really cool thing. And congratulations on being in that magazine, man.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It was neat.
Yeah, so that's good. That's our plug for the day. But all right, so here's the deal. We're going to talk 2 quick things. One is how COVID-19 is what we're finding, because we first started talking about on surfaces, how long it would last. It seems to be boiling down to coughing, sneezing, coming out of the mouth, whether that's breathing or coughing. And now there's a little more controversy because of what WHO, who I'm not a big fan of, thinks, as well as there's some new scientists giving information. What was your thoughts on that?
So just to catch people up to speed on what we're talking about is the WHO has, they've had to adjust things as we learn more scientifically, but they've settled on large droplets. That's kind of the term they use for how the coronavirus is spread. There is let's see, 239 scientists from 32 different countries that drafted a really big, very formal letter that they submitted to the WHO just a few days ago, outlining the fact that it looks like, according to the science and all the information that we presently have, that it is small droplets, which sounds like a very small and minor detail, but the difference is it being spread by sneezes, where these large droplets zoom across a room, versus the small droplets, and we're talking really small, a couple of microns. A micron is a millionth of a meter, and that it kind of wafting across an entire room, which falls in line more with the transmission and how fast it's happened and how people haven't really been able to recognize that they were exposed. Because if somebody sneezes on you, I mean, I would think about that for days. Or somebody coughs on me, which is in line with the large particle thought. With these small particles, it just kind of wafts across, and it can waft across an entire room. And that is where some of these recommendations come, that you should stay out of groups indoors, even more so than you should outdoors, because outdoors, it can spread out a lot more. There's a little bit of a breeze, there's a little bit of sun exposure, and all those things reduce the risk of transmission enough, a large amount. I don't know if it's enough or not. It depends on a lot of different variables, but it can reduce one's risk.
All right, so here's the thing. They'll fight this out. We will know the answer when it's way too late, but it's probably done by both. And so the controversy now is, you and I are going to stay out of the politics because people are insane with that. And this is nothing personal, because but we have to, as physicians, not try to jump on the right or the left. I'm just trying to give you as best data as we can, because I'm pressed by patients about the mask issue as well. I get it. Listen, this thing is, like you said, very small. And so when you look at the holes in a bandana people wear, obviously this stuff can get through that, right? So it's not a mask, by no means is perfect. By no means. People say, well, that if it's not perfect, it gives them a false sense of security. And I believe this is my opinion, totally, that no, I think it gives them awareness that they still need to be careful. For example, a neoprene little knee brace doesn't really give you that much support of your knee when you have a bad knee, but you kind of know it's there, and you know to baby it. That's my personal example. The other thing is, okay, if this thing is so small and the bandana or cloth mask has holes, when you microscopically look bigger than that, then everything gets through it. And I don't believe that's true either. And I'm going to show some data to support that. But yes, you'll have some stuff get through, but it's like a screen door with bugs that can get through the holes in that screen. If you threw all these bugs at it, some are going to get blocked because some will hit the screen. And so it's not perfect. But when you look at the up-to-date, which I'm going to have to wear my glasses here, but up-to-date is our resource that we use as physicians, probably the most trusted. Okay, so the use of masks or face coverings to provide source control and reduce transmission in the community is supported by indirect evidence, which is not perfect. They did a retrospective study of 124 patients with confirmed CV-19 and their families. It was in Beijing, and secondary transmission occurred in 41 families. Use of masks by family members prior to illness onset majorly reduced the risk of infection. It didn't specify what type of mask, but another study with a medical mask, it reduced, eliminated detectable viral RNA in droplet and aerosol particles. So we did do both, droplet and aerosol. It eliminated it from exhaled breath. Now, it was only detected in 30–40% people without wearing masks. So it is not perfect, but it's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. I'm not saying to any patients who are pressing me, listen, in my office, you got to wear the mask. You want to choose what you want to do. It's what the governor also recommends, what places recommend, and I think it's better than nothing. But if you're walking into a sheet and people are in there, no one's wearing a mask, exhaling all the time, and they have COVID, that stuff could be wafting around. And that mask may just block enough that you don't have the tipping point to get you infected. May. The big word is may, but there's no perfection in this situation. Masks are not perfect. I tell people that. Social distance, don't go into closed areas unless you have to. That being said, the young ones are out there getting infected really bad right now. And so what I had mentioned, I think in an earlier one about the other option was peaking the instead of flattening the curve, but peaking the curve to build herd immunity. When you see what happened in Florida and you see like in Fire Island, New York, they're packed over the weekend, that's in New York where they were having it destroyed by this. Young people are ignoring all this. And I don't know, man. It seems to me that at some point we're all going to have antibodies to this, whether it's a vaccine or we get infected. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the average age of people who have a positive COVID-19 test has dropped a lot. The greater majority is now under the age of 40. Within the past, I think, week and a half, those numbers came out. And that has continued since that time from the numbers I've read. But you talk about antibodies. Switching topic just a teeny bit, there's a lot coming out now about these vaccines, and we are doing a full court press worldwide, and they're using some different vaccination techniques in developing these things, and they're using lab-grown antibodies, and then some recent data just got released about some of these having really good numbers, and that those homegrown antibodies are allowing the body to produce even more antibodies in one company in their vaccine, more so than actually getting the virus does. And so we'll see how that plays out and what that actually means. But it's all really interesting. I mean, I think whether we get a vaccine or not out of this, we'll learn a lot about medicine and the human body and process. I mean, you see this when there's a full court press for anything, whether it's a world war or a pandemic, a lot of good science comes out of it.
Well, we learned a few things. One is the country will never lock down again. Just not going to happen. It was so repulsive and economically damaging that people were just not going to believe it unless it's something as bad as like polio. That's just not going to happen. We have, I think what we should learn, if you look at every Asian country, anytime they have another infection, they're wearing a mask immediately. We probably should as well. I am fearful that there's not enough people that will take the vaccine. So it looks like, this is my prediction right here, all the young 30, 20s, they're going out. They're going to get it. They're going to build enough herd immunity. The number we have to know is what's the number of a herd immunity where it just stops, this thing dies out. Is it, they've always said 70% you need, or something like that, at least 50%. But now I've heard those numbers could be lower. So at some point there has to be, if you kept the susceptible, vulnerable, older people, unfortunately myself, away from being infected, let the young ones get infected, and very few hopefully will really get sick, but that does happen, and they'll build a herd immunity. The problem was politics. Unfortunately, no one wants blood on their hands, and if you allow 20-year-old, 30-year-olds go out and get it this for everybody else, you know, wear the shield of getting infected, and someone dies, that politician is gone. And so right now, exactly as it played out, they said you have to be sheltered in place. Those people then freaked out once we opened up. I mean, listen, we were in March, we were shutting down and there was hardly anything in the country. Now it's rampant and we're opening up still. I mean, we've changed 180 degrees. So I understand everybody's confusion, but it looks to me that the young ones are not going to listen. They're going to get it, and off their backs, that may be our savior. But what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. The herd immunity, I've heard different numbers. Just it's a little bit different for each virus, from what I understand. And there's still a lot of unknowns about how this will react, and can people get long-lasting immunity from this? That's something that is still up in the air. It looks like there's a temporary immunity,
2 to 3 months.
but if there's a long-lasting immunity, that remains to be unseen, because this thing didn't even hit the planet until 6 months ago, roughly. Yeah. And so we don't know, is an immunity good for 20 years out, whatever.
Well,
And
we've
so
not had a case. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's been one case of reinfection, a real case of someone really being reinfected. There's been some debates, but I don't think that's ever been proven yet.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like you said, there's been debates, and so
Yeah.
I don't know where the dust will settle on that.
This is how this unfortunately is playing out. If you look at the numbers, we're getting large rates of infection, but not many are dying, thank God. And so the death rate, I think, is not really going up, but the infection rate's going higher. Maybe because of testing, but maybe because young ones are just getting it. They're the ones not going to do it, get sick. And us older people are still staying away, and that may be a good thing. So you're not stopping the young people from going out. They're done. I'm telling you, they're done. The old people, if you're out there listening and you're vulnerable with medical problems, I would recommend masking and not going to in enclosed areas, and just give it more time. Hopefully, I was hoping by June 1st. Now I'm hoping late fall, this thing will be gone. But man, I don't know. This is driving me crazy too.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be longer than shorter.
Yeah, it's a bummer. So, on that note, we'll keep giving information out here as best we can. There's controversial information, one study wonders that come out on meds, on treatments. I mean, I remember ibuprofen you couldn't take and ACE inhibitors you couldn't take. That now has changed. So people be aware that these studies sometimes are like one-hit wonders of bands that come with their one song, right? It doesn't really prove long-lasting either. We'd like to have some more discussions. We were going to do that today. Maybe next time we'll have a discussion on cholesterol, because I think we have some good information there. And we'll just keep seeing how things go. Any thoughts, departing thoughts, my friend?
No, but if people are interested in have any history of heart issues in their family, our next episode is going to be a good one to listen to, because there have been a lot of data that's come out over the last 40 years. And the American Heart Association has been really slow to adopt some things, probably because they want to make sure it's correct, make sure it wasn't one of these one-hit wonder type studies. And the data has supported over a long time. So this next one, this is a little teaser trailer right here, is worth listening to and sharing with people who have dealt with strokes, heart attacks, and family members who've dealt with the same. It's definitely worth learning.
Sounds good. And if you guys get a chance to see that Consumer Reports, and just Google that with direct primary care. If you're interested in joining my practice or at Dr. Anderson's practice, we'll have information at the end of this video. Everybody, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Anderson. We'll talk again soon, all right?
Thanks. Take care.
Man.